I'm Benji Kurtz. I first met John Talbert 30 years ago this summer, and in a couple weeks it will be 26 years since we lost him. Back then, John was assigned as a standby engineer for the Bulldogs radio network on game days, the same days that I was sitting at WSB pushing the buttons to get those broadcasts on the air. Football Saturday broadcasts then for the Dog radio network were only about 9 hours long. Affiliates in the room, and Hondo and Scott know that those days are long gone. It's more like 11 hours and change. And every so often during these 9-hour days, nature would call. That's where John came in. He'd come down the hall, take over the board, and cover the network while I took a few minutes away. What started as bathroom break coverage turned into a great friendship. After another successful broadcast, we would often head to R. Thomas down the street on Peachtree, talking and laughing well into the night. And before long, we were spending time together outside of work too. There was always food, always laughter, and always John's dry, sarcastic humor. As brilliant an engineer as he was, John was also hilarious and sarcastic. If you knew him, you knew that trademark eye roll, the drawn out, oh, when something went sideways, or the way his voice would shoot up an octave the more he got excited. You did what? I could share countless stories, like the time he left a console unrepaired after warning the jocks not to drink soda in the studio, which of course is exactly what they did, or my personal favorite, which let's just say it involves a Walkman, a stereo light, a remote, an extreme profanity on the air, and is better left for the engineer's table over there. Instead of that, I will let others have a turn at remembering John Talbert. He's missed by all who knew him, but he's always with us.
Love to talk and tell stories, but I rolled up his sleeves too when it was time to go to work. Like some other people I know that just only like to talk and tell stories.
John, in fact, was the Georgia Tech Sports Network. He did everything. He did all the remote pickups. He ordered all the phone lines for all the away games. He dealt with all the affiliates as far as downlink problems or any other technical problems. Several years later after that, John decided to make an adventure and go to Anchorage, Alaska, work for a radio station up there. And when John left, we had to actually hire 2 full-time guys and 1 part-time guy just to do all the work that John Talbert did by himself.
Coming back from NAB, I think it was 1998, and of course our flight from Phoenix to Atlanta got delayed, and the only thing open in the Phoenix airport was Burger King. They were not interested in dealing with a bunch of people that were grumpy and wanted to close. John looked at me and said, "Come on, we're gonna help him get through these people so we can get some food." So John, being John, he jumped over the counter and walked up to an unused register and said, "Hey, somebody needs to log me in." At that point, we did get attention from the manager, and mercifully not law enforcement. The manager said, okay, I will deal with you guys. Just get on the other side of the counter. That's just how John was. There was no problem that was going to be left unsolved.
I do remember that whole EAS plan and everything else because we would get together regularly to go out to dinner. And John would bring along about 3 or 4 pages of stuff he had written up, including the operational areas and the who monitors who and the LP1s and everything else. And I was the proofreader. I had to proofread all the stuff for him. You know, there was no committee, there was no work group. It was basically him. I mean, what would you say, 95, 98% of the current plan that's still in operation to this day, that was done by a guy in his mid-20s over 30 years ago.
We were looking for an heir apparent to Ron Wilson, who was our chief engineer at the time. We wanted to make a generational change there. You know, Ron was one of the kind of original FM engineers, you know, that put FMs on the air, and he was more of a technical guy, so he spoke engineerese. Ron would say something and John would roll his eyes, like I said, like, you know, "Dad, you don't know what you're talking about here." You know, there's still cables running through that building that I'm sure John pulled through the floor. That stuff is all still working. Yes, the technology has changed a little bit, but I think it's recognized as one of the premier radio facilities that was built during that time.
Not only did he think differently about the building when we moved into the new building, but he respected the tradition that came with 100 years now of service to the city and really appreciated the foundational aspects that 750 was just integrated into the society of Atlanta. It was part of the city, making sure that the decisions that were made at that time were going to be decisions that could carry that building for 20 or 25 years to adapt without having to, retool everything from the ground up.
He just had a wicked sense of humor. And this was a guy who was going to be dealing with the likes of Neil Mortz and Clark Howard and would probably need that sense of humor, at some point.
His joy of solving problems with tools that other people didn't understand, the magic behind engineering, was infectious.
I miss John dearly, and he was just one of a kind.
I've never heard anybody say a single bad word about John. Don't say that.
He's not missing so long as the best pieces of him continue on inside me and inside the people that he touched.